Well, that was how the weekend panned out. Of course, if Manchester City win their game in hand, there'll just be 2 points between the top three. Everton, well, they will leapfrog Luton if they avoid defeat against Palace live on talkSPORT tonight and move out of the drop zone. And Manchester United are just 3 points behind fifth place Spurs, thanks to Rasmus Hojlund double at Kenilworth Road. They're only 5 points off the top four now as well. It's amazing. Reds boss Ten Hag was asked about his striker's recent form in front of goal after that 2-1 win.
We always believed he's a fantastic striker. He has great abilities. He's very young, and he had to. He needed some adaptation, and he was unlucky, and we were unlucky by decision made against him. For instance, a penalty he should have get against Arsenal. Against Brighton, he scored a goal. He was cancelled, and no one still knows why. Things like this, and that, of course, when you then don't score, something with your belief is going on. But he's a strong character, and that is what you see in this moment. He keep fighting, keep working for better performances, and now he's scoring. And now he has a lot of confidence, and it looks like every ball is going in.
I tell you what, Kaz, the key phrase there was he has a strong character, because he came into Manchester United as a kid. He was a 20-year-old then, without a great goal-scoring record, by the way, in Italy. And he got battered, absolutely battered, particularly in the media, and us as well, you know. So to show the strength of character to come through and do what he's doing it's remarkable, isn't it?
Well, Jeff, if you consider that he scored his first Premier League goal on December the 26th, so he's gone through nearly 3 months of not scoring in the Premier League. He's scored goals in the Champions League, he's scored goals for his country. And I tell you what, Jeff, there's one thing that stood out. I remember when Dwight York went, and Dwight wasn't young, he was about 26, 27 when he went to Manchester United, but I was with Dwight as a 19-year-old when he was at Villa, and always knew that he would go on to play for one of the big clubs because he was a very talented individual. And watching him develop, Hojlund were not walking into a dressing room where there wasn't any main strikers of any experience. So he's already up against it. You know, Dwight York walked into Manchester United, he had Andy Cole, Teddy Sheringham and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in that 98-99 season when he walked in. And that says it all about the character of Hojlund, because he's gone through a difficult period, and look, the club have had to stick with him. A lot was resting on his shoulders, but boys, his character has stood out about how he's now gone on a run. Things are working for him. He's getting the confidence, which all strikers need. But I've seen a fantastic mentality of a young man that didn't have what's normally in place at Old Trafford, where you've got them types of Mark Hughes there, Ruud van Nistelrooy, you know, any big name you can think that's played up front. He followed people like Weghorst, you know, who was a short term. You know, he's followed them as they've used, obviously, Marcus Rashford as a centre forward. And I just felt fair play to him. He deserves all the credit he can get, because he's finally found his way through imagine scoring your first Premier League. I've been in droughts, Jeff, but a 3-month drought is a hell of a long one, especially if you're playing for Man United and you haven't got a Premier League goal.
Absolutely. Also on United, talkSPORT understands Dan Ashworth formally informed Newcastle he wants to leave to become Manchester United's new sporting director. He has a year's notice clause in his contract, but he could have to serve garden leave of almost double that timescale unless the two clubs can agree a deal. I'll tell you what, Kaz, I mean, the figure being bandied about in the press is that United would have to pay 20 million for Dan Ashworth. And I asked myself, you know, why wouldn't you do that? You pay, 88 million for Anthony, and I just picked him out at random. There are plenty of other players I could have picked. So if you want somebody who's going to, you know, direct the whole way your football is heading, you know, reorganise the club in that direction, 20 million's a drop in the ocean. If Newcastle want it, pay it.
I think we've seen, you know, there's the evolution of football and how it's changed is that role in particular. That director of football, head of recruitment, guys that come into the club, guys that go out the club. They're two very important things that happen at the best run football clubs in England. And if Dan Ashworth is the guy that you want, and that's obviously he is, you go after him at any cost, because in the long term, Jeff, you'll save a hell of a lot of money. If you're astute in your transfers, look at Brighton, they've continued. And it wasn't only just Dan Ashworth, it's people involved around him. You have to employ. Tony Bloom's one of his biggest things he's done from Brighton has been that employing people to do things that he might not think he can do very well. And that's what Jim Radcliffe is looking at, bringing in someone like Dan Ashworth.
Yeah, he has an absolutely stellar reputation, doesn't he? United fans, let's hear from you. Is Hojlund going to fire into the Champions League next season? Is the fan base fully behind Ten Hag now? Well, obviously you are now. Or do you still have some doubts? I don't think there can be any doubters out there at the moment. 03717223344. Give us a call. You'll be on shortly. Elsewhere, Sheffield United lost 5-0 at home to Brighton. 65 goals conceded after 25 games. Chris Wilder's just planning for next season now, isn't it? Because we all know where this is ending, don't we, Kaz?
Well, he won't admit that, but I'd like to think that, of course, if you're a manager and you're thinking, what about if we go down, who do I keep in the club? You know, look at personnel that you're... Because one thing Chris will do will be immediately thinking, when it does happen, because it looks inevitable for Sheffield United, is... what do I do and who do I bring in and who do I get out of the football club for next season? Because he'll want to bounce straight back, like any manager that gets relegated. He's been brought in, he's got an 18-month contract. It was foreseen out this season, and if the worst comes to the worst, they go down. They'll go down with a fighting chance, that's for sure, coming back up. But there will be change, because change needs to happen at Sheffield United. You know, when he took over the job in League One, change happened quite quickly for him. And they got promoted, went on an amazing run. He'd had an amazing time at Northampton, got 100 points. He did a similar feat with Sheffield. So Chris will want to go down there with thinking, right, who's the personnel that I need to bring this club together again? Because when he walked in, there was fractions, not only with the team, but the supporters, the owners. He needs to rebuild that football club again.
Yeah, he does. Maybe, by the way, similar applies to Burnley, doesn't it? What on earth is happening at Burnley when you think of how they cruised the Championship last season, but they're cruising straight back down to the Championship again.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.